Okay, so I've been working on this thing called the Product Studio in 2025 because I feel like product studios will have to change a lot with everything that's happening. Product Studio could be used interchangeably with digital agency or development agency, whatever you want to call it. But it's been on my mind, and I thought I would just share a video of what we are thinking about. I run Minimum Studio. We used to be low code, so we're really focused on shipping quickly, getting things done, getting from zero to one. But I think low code would probably be something of the past in a while. So obviously, we need to figure out what's next. And this has been on my mind mostly because of LLMs getting so good at so many different things and the rate of change. So I wanted to just record this and share, what we are thinking about in case it's helpful for anyone else. So first disclaimer is we focus on founders and early stage ideas. So that probably informs a lot of the things that we're thinking about. And I'm not saying this is the way for people to do this stuff. I'm just saying we're trying to find a way that works for us. And I hope, there's some things in here that other people might find relevant as well. So my main questions, I've had these for a while, is what workflow starts to make more and more sense when models improve? That's, let's say, question number one. I'm really afraid of selling something that will be replaced. And I think selling skills or utilities or things that will be easily done by LLMs is going to put studios and agencies in really bad position. So I keep thinking about what is the workflow that people will still need, but even further than that, what's the workflow that will get better and better now that these tools get better? Which is the most exciting part, right? Because then you can actually benefit from all of these changes and the business becomes better. Of course, following that is what skills are still valuable to offer. I think on a lot of people's minds, there's a sort of spectrum between LLMs are stagnating to AGI is almost there. We don't really know how much of skills will be replaced by AI and how many humans are still necessary to run this whole world. But I think we do need to make some kind of assumption about this in the meantime, because believing one or the other side is probably too dangerous. So I keep thinking about what is the skill that, assuming LLMs just progress like they do now, what is the skill that will still be useful for people? In our case, clients are founders. So what should a client or founder do themselves? And what do people need help with? So which parts do you actually go to a product studio for or to an agency for? And which ones of those will still be there? And then the last thing, of course, is what actually goes into building a product. So what are the skills and how are they exactly defined? Those are my main questions going into this. First thing I'm excited about thinking about all of this is that usually any innovation is an opportunity to reduce the size of a team. And I think whenever you can do that, you should. It's probably the most effective way to get shit done is just to reduce the size of a team. So in our case, I'm trying to find something that is one plus one. So one client, one person on our side. If we can do that, I'm 100% sure we can go the fastest. It can be the most straightforward, the easiest to manage, and we can do the most projects and have the most impact. So ideally, I try to reduce it to one. What does the founder still do? In our case, I think a founder should be doing, setting the vision, obviously, selling, fundraising, thinking about marketing and distribution constantly. Most importantly, getting feedback. So this feels like all the, let's say, human work, all the customer-facing work. Someone really needs to be the face of the company, needs to push the vision forward, and obviously that has to be the founder. There's never not going to be the founder in this case. So the question is, what can a founder use help with that they cannot do themselves, or they're maybe not that good at themselves, so they can focus on doing these things? Well, we can do the rest. So we can take ideas, prioritize them, make them real, iterate based on the feedback, basically run the process of developing the product, of which making things real is probably the most, let's say, LLM sensitive task. So just execution is the thing that actually everyone is working so hard to replace. I think if you're an agency that just does this, so you're just executing on other people's plans, I think you're in a dangerous spot because that's exactly what LLMs are good at. The other parts I think are quite valuable and creative and unique, and you can make much more impact by doing those well. So making, yeah, like I said, assuming LLMs will get better at coding, UX, even analysis and writing documentation, what is left? And I think there's two things, but there might be more. But these two things are on my mind. Building the right thing is number one. of course, with all of these options, with all of this power at your disposal, coding more, creating more, it's very easy to create a mess. So I think building the right thing is crucial, and you probably have more impact skipping things or cutting out things than you'll have impact on proposing new things, like a lot of developers have done in the past. That's one thing, and the other one is taste. This is design focused. I think how to make an impact on the design side is to have a defined sense of taste, because there's so many generic stuff out there. But it's not just on the design side; it's also on the brand, copywriting, the messaging. If the founder has a really clear vision of what they want to do, if they're able to sell it to other people, to partners, then I think the product studio is there to make sure that that vision actually resonates. And that's where taste comes in. That's where the visuals come in. And that's where, let's say, the filter on the output on how it looks comes in. Then building the right thing, number one. I think there's something to be said for people who can like work with abstract ideas, pick good ideas out of a ton of bad ones, ruthlessly prioritize and interpret feedback really well. There's a difference between taking users' orders one to one and actually looking at the underlying problem, solving that in a good way as a product manager in this case. So if you look at these tasks, this is very much like a good product manager would behave. But there's also understanding the underlying output of the models, which is different than before, right? So if you would just hire a product manager, I don't expect them to be able to do this. So it's probably easier for a developer or a designer to get better at this and then to still have their fundamental skills to understand what the LLMs are doing, which is crucial, I think. Otherwise, you get into vibe coding territory and you might have really great plans, but if you don't know the underlying code, it's going to be really tough. Of course, until LLMs fix that as well, but still, I think it's really good to have your basics set up. So more people, I think, have to behave like really great product managers and less like good developers. Then taste. There's so much slop and there's so much generic stuff going out. All these models are constantly training on the same data, so it's very easy to get something that doesn't stand out. And being able to create it is not no longer something you can sell. I think it's going to be utility. Not having an opinion about things is going to be very popular. So you need to do something else. So what you end up making has to be not generic, has to be specific, has to actually make a point, and you have to have some kind of sort of opinion or consistent sense of taste as a studio would be perfect, because then at least you have something people can still copy it, but at least if you have a sense of taste that you can share with each other and you share with your clients, that's something that you can keep investing in and keep doing without it being generic at some point. Unless, of course, it becomes generic, but then probably your taste has evolved again. So, team setup wise, I think it should work a little bit like this. So, assuming a founder and a product person are the people that are constantly working on this project or just worried about it and actively working on it, you'll have agents around the product person to help them execute. I'm thinking here about easy things right now, but of course these could get increasingly more complex as the tools get better. I think the ideas come from the founder to the product person because the founder is talking to users, is selling, is trying to get the point across, and then together they figure out what to do. Agents do the easy stuff, so the product person delegates to the agents, and then I think the studio should have some kind of expertise in house, not to be full time working on the project, but just to advise. I like this model a lot because it puts one person in charge, and the one person can just ask for input from different things and can also delegate to agents. So one person becomes much more of a manager, which is going to be sad to hear for some creatives, but I do think it's the reality, and they are going to use these experts, use these agents to get shit done, and then communicate to the founder, go through that loop together. That's probably what I'm trying to set up. These experts will be things like architecture. I'm just calling this fancy word for backend development and making things scalable. Distribution would be nice to have as well because it impacts so much of how you're building and design. And with design, I mostly mean there's these parts of UX design or parts of building a product that might get super complex, or building a design system at the beginning, like a consistent UI. There's these little things I think that you would need help with if you're a generalist. But I do think there's a lot of, once you have that in place, there's a lot of UX design, for example, that can be done by agents or can be done by a good product person. So I don't think a designer has to be involved constantly, but there's probably a good workflow to figure out there where the designer is there for more complex issues and figuring out, foundational things. So trying to do this, and we're actively experimenting right now to make that possible and trying to fill the gaps in the things that we don't have. And I'm just going to run through two of them um, to show you kind of how we're thinking about it. The first one is taste engines. I really want to try and be able to sort of scale taste because this will make everyone less dependent of each other. So I coded something that we started using. I kind of like it right now, but I think the concept is mostly important. What this thing does for us is it's basically like a library of things that we like visually. So it's graphic design and brands that I've basically filled it up with. And I will pull in a website or pull in some graphic design. I will describe it and I will say the things that I really like about it. But most importantly, I will describe what I like about it. And I think if you have those reasons stored, you might be able to do something very interesting with them. The system here helps us. So it actually pulls in colors, typography, copywriting, basically everything that we might want to say for the future. And the benefit of it is whenever we want to do a new project and we want to have a certain vibe there, we can just put in the vibe search over here, put in an adjective, say we want to build something friendly, and then we will get all the things that we've described as friendly or relatively friendly or something in that space. And the cool thing now is that we can actually drill down to certain aspects of those brands. So we can look at their colors, the copywriting, the visuals, their logos, and that makes it very easy to do mood boards. So now anyone that is looking for something, so this is like simple versus clean, for example, and pull it into FigJam, and anyone on the team can just do this exercise with the client, find something that they really like, and suddenly we found something that we like, but the client also really likes. And that's, I think, is a super valuable thing with taste is if you can find overlap with your client, then suddenly it's very easy to execute. If you let the client decide what the examples are, it's going to be less aligned with your taste. So you want people to hire you for your specific taste. What's really cool about this now with LLMs and with AI is that we can actually use the output not to copy, but to synthesize based on what we like. So if we're looking at ideas, we can, for example, just throw the colors in here and say, can you give me color schemes like these brands? Because I'm trying to get to the same vibe. So this is surprisingly good already. And I only expect this to get better in the future. And this concept, I think, of actively collecting as a studio can be super interesting if you want everyone to behave in a certain way and to have a certain visual taste without relying on a manager or a creative director to be constantly be involved. So I think what can happen here is you have a creative director managing the taste library, deciding what goes in and also what goes out after a while, cleaning things up, saying this is the stuff that we like. And then team plus agents use the library to start new ideas to reference to get good fonts, for example, without that having to be that same person being involved everywhere. So I think we have better image generation right now as well. So you can almost see this as a sort of rapid prototyping tool for brands because I add what I like and most importantly, why I like it. So if you can feed why you like something to an AI, it will actually give you good output. And that will make it very different from generic output if you just ask it to generate a color scheme randomly or even a logo. I think everyone has tried to do a logo with AI. It's terrible right now. Of course, it won't be forever. But if you feed it a few logos that you like, the output is actually much, much better. So this is a sort of tool to help still move quickly, but still do something that is very much aligned with what we like and not just generic AI slop. The second thing is a product agent. So the big question, of course, if you see the setup is if you're going to put a creative in this position and you're going to ask them to do all of this stuff, there's going to be quite some admin. And that's not something we want to spend our time on. I think that's exactly what we want to replace. So I think the low level product manager work, product owner work, I don't know what to call it, is should be replaced by an agent, and the person working on the project should just use the agent to execute on those things. So think about PRDs, wireframing, roadmaps, feedback collection, stuff like that. You can configure agents as a studio as well. So I think that's a really cool thing about using more AI in your workflow is as a studio, you kind of decide how these agents operate. Do you want them to be scrappy? Do you want them to be scalable? Or do you want them to focus constantly on security? That is something that I think also has a little bit of taste in there. And the people working on the project should be helped a lot with these guardrails, with agents that help them execute. And I think this helps the founder as well. So basically, what a product manager would normally do: make sure everyone is aligned, make sure all the feedback is collected, and all the problems are raised. Feels a lot like LLM work for me. This is something we're building at the moment. So if you're watching this and this is interesting to you, shoot me a message because we're looking for people to try it and help us out with that. But if anyone else is building it, let me know as well because I'd love to use it. But I think this will help a lot by making the team smaller and still having this, let's say, organized structure of having a PM involved. Then last thing, sales process. Looking at all of this and looking at how fast you can go, having the right tools in house, being able to ship so quickly, I don't think you should spend time scoping at all because the time you will be spent scoping is much better used to actually build something real. And I think the plans are going to change so quickly with how fast competition is shipping, how fast everyone is going. That's just a waste of time. So in our case, we'll do one more boarding session to line on taste, have a good feeling of, our taste overlapping with the client, and then we will prototype a little bit together, see if the idea has merit, and then just decide on the budget and use that budget to ship and just sell time. No big reveal at the end, so no, like here's the scope document, we'll come back in 3 months, and then here's the full version. Much, much smaller because the time that other people spend scoping, we can already be have something live and have something that's actually used or have something that can be shared with users. So I really hope to see fixed scope projects just kind of like dying because they're just in general bad ideas for building software. Um, they usually they usually either force people to make something that is subpar if you get feedback throughout the process, or they're just a way to get the proposal done and to get a fixed price. So usually someone loses on one of the other ends, and I think it's much better to be aligned and to actually ship and do things together and learn iteratively. That's for us, though. So if you're also figuring this stuff out, I would love to hear your opinion about it. Shoot me a message on X. There's many, many different ways to approach this, so I'd love to hear opinions from other people. And if you want to go through this process with us, if you're excited about this, if you're a founder, go to minimum.studio and shoot us a message.